Our Lissy, our honored guest here, is jumping on in a second. I let's see if she's coming on. Oh, Dave, are you? Oh, there you are.
Hi there.
Hi,
Hey
Lissy.
there,
Yeah, you've got your name. You want to change your name on the
Liz, you got
Zoom?
me. Yeah, you have my name on that Zoom.
Wow, how exciting. I don't know
Yeah,
what's
and
going
let's jump into this. We've got some people attending here. Thanks very much. My name's Paul Hitchcock. This is Giant TV. This is my media channel where I have entrepreneurs doing amazing things, and this father-daughter combo I'm very excited about. Got Dave Alden, who brings decades of global experience leading executive leadership, and now works closely with CEOs through his peer advisory groups designed to help leaders make better decisions and grow faster. This is through Vistage. Obviously, Dave, we've known each other for a while. Welcome.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that, Paul.
Yes, and I've got Lissy who focuses on the science of mental fitness and organizational performance, helping leaders strengthen the cognitive and emotional skills required to navigate complexity and pressure. This is our foray into the father-daughter. Let's get into it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So, Liz, if that's okay, let me kick this thing off a little bit because I've been doing some of these podcasts here with solutions that keep business owners and CEOs up at night. And so I see with some of the work that you're doing, and you and I talk about it obviously quite a bit offline at allied businesses, and your themes, mental fitness and winning the day. And so when sat down and thought about this, I said, wow, what an opportunity so that both of us are smarter than any one of us. And so when I think about an analogy here, I think about winning sports teams. So you think about winning sports teams as kind of like a business. So we've got strategy, we've got culture, we've got all the things that are personnel that are needed to be really successful, process, procedure, where we meet. And then, but there's something else that sports teams have that I don't think we've spent enough time talking about. That is, think about they have strengthening coaches, they have all kinds of personal coaches for the individuals in the winning teams. And so that's where you really come in when it talks about mental fitness. So, Liz, before I just take over the whole thing and don't give you any chance to talk a little bit about kind of mental fitness, what you're doing, and how you win the day here, and how that works with all process and procedure that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah. So first off, Dad, it's so cool to be here with you. And Paul, it's great to see you again.
Thank you.
We got some big topics here because there's a couple things you touched on. The first is what I call mental fitness, and the next is called organizational fitnesses, which is really about the process and procedure that you had mentioned and that you're a little more used to. For those who don't know, mental fitness is really about building the right mindset to achieve your goals consistently with vigor over time. So I always like to say that it's really about making sure that you have the right mental state so that even when you have a bad day or you're stressed or you're overwhelmed, you can really get your head back in the game and continue to put one foot in front of the other. And this idea of winning the moment is really core to what we call mental fitness, because in the same way you can't work out your body without first deciding to go to the gym or deciding to go on a run. You have to make a decision that you want to move forward in some way, shape, or form. And so we can talk a little bit about the science of how to do that later. Now, how this relates to organizational fitness, which is the big picture and something that Dad, you and Paul, I'm sure you're very familiar with as well, is organizational fitness is really about creating the right structure, training, process within an organization for the players or your employees to grow well and fast with you. And as the organization and our world has become more dynamic, we have more change, hello AI, everyone has to be able to not only be flexible in their mindset, but the organization needs to be flexible in the way it's structured. And so I help organizations and the people within them build the right fitness so they can evolve, grow, and hit their targets as the world continues to change.
I think that is just
Love it.
phenomenal because here's what I spend a lot of time thinking about is the differences in the culture for the different age groups. So if I think about my perspective as a boomer, if I can say, when my companies that I've worked at in my history said jump, what did I say? How high? Today, non-boomers, and Liz, you and I have talked about this a lot. When they say jump, what's the answer? Tell me why. And so, how
Why?
does that relate? How does how does that relate to this organizational fitness and mental fitness that you're talking about here?
Yeah. So um, I like to think about this in the context of actually some of the research that I was doing when I was at MIT, which is this concept that teams used to be viewed as a noun. It was a bounded group of individuals working on one goal with a very specific group of people. And it was pretty static, meaning that goal did not change very often. Now, there's a woman, actually, the founder of psychological safety is a theory, which many of us are familiar with, called Amy Edmondson, who talks about the fact that teams have moved from a noun to a verb. So now teams aren't on it. You're not on a team, you're teaming. You are constantly working on many teams with many goals as the world, again, continues to change and grow fast. And so, what used to work, which was, hey, I'm going to tell my team exactly what to do in that typical corporate triangle, right? The message went down the triangle, right to the front lines, and then folks said, okay, I'll do it. By the time things trickle down, everything's changed. And because people have so many competing priorities, because they're on multiple teams, because context shifts, and because at the end of the day, we all are basically trying to be as efficient as possible against these competing priorities. Why matters to figure out how to triage your to-do list. And so the why, which might be irritating for some boomers to hear, is actually a new tool, a communication tool to help folks understand how to maintain flexibility when everything's changing and there's a lot of these different priorities at stake.
Can I just say one
It's
quick thing, Lissy? I love it,
sure.
and I just got to tell you because your dad and I talked about it yesterday. I miss being a boomer by 1 year. I'm actually
Yeah.
Gen X, so I just want to get that out there. Okay, that's what
By the way, Paul, thank you so much for that admission. So you may,
exactly.
I find that some Gen X falls on that edge. So are you a why guy or a how high guy? That's the real question.
I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. I don't know.
All right. But I'll tell you one thing: to be a successful guy, you've got to understand what is happening in the workforce today. And I saw a statistic that absolutely blew me away that in the next 10 years, 65% of the positions that'll be available and need to be filled do not even exist today. And
Oh,
so that
interesting.
tells you that the culture is changing, that the organization is changing. And if you're going to be a successful business owner, entrepreneur, CEO, president, you've got to orient yourself and really think about this leadership paradigm in so many different facets. And Lissy, what you're talking about is got to be absolutely paramount. And admittedly, as we say in our family, the eggs are smarter than the chickens, and you're well educated. And so, on all of these things, no, I love to learn from you, and it's really going to be critical to change. Is change is the ability to learn and grow, and in the dynamic environment we're in, it's just amazing. What else can you share with us about mental fitness? I love that terminology because
Me
I
too.
like to work out, and so many people, let's call them boomers, are great at running and working out. But when it comes to the mental side, we're a little bit, that was vulnerability, and vulnerability was bad. And if you were vulnerable in a corporate environment, the first thing they did was pull out a 44, shoot you in the head, drag you out of the room, and somebody would eventually say, "Hey, what was the problem we were supposed to solve, by the way?" So talk a little bit about the mental fitness aspect.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said about kind of the vulnerability here because I actually think there's a bit of a hangover that other folks feel very much when we talk about anything that comes to the mind. People talk about physical health now, and automatically you think about longevity, going to the gym. There's almost an identity-based sense of pride to taking care of yourself in that way. But when we talk about mental health, it's still very stigmatized. People assume, especially obviously depends on where you're located in the country or the world, that there must be a big problem if you're addressing some sort of mental health or mental fitness challenge. But part of what we're trying to do is you don't destigmatize something by making it something that everyone talks about. You actually just make it cool. And when we talk about mental fitness, we're talking about truly the things that athletes, professional athletes, people we look up to every day, use always, to make sure that they keep their mindset sharp. So if they miss a basket, a goal, or they have a bad day or bad season, they don't throw their entire career. Now, I joke that most people don't think about their mental health on a regular basis because our brain sits behind our eyes and we literally forget about it. We cannot see it. There's a fun study that shows that purely by having people draw a picture of their own brain and put it on their desk, they start thinking about and paying more attention to their mental health and their mind.
Hmm.
But for most of us, we haven't been taught how to work on our mind. And the answer by the time we're in a place of stress, exhaustion, and overwhelm is typically we'll go to a therapist. That's kind of like telling somebody who hasn't been going to the gym, has a little crick in their shoulder, or is feeling like a little sluggish to go to the doctor, right? That's not the only solution. There are these very small research-backed exercises you can do that fall across different disciplines like health, wellness, longevity, sleep. And we'll talk about what those are, I'm sure, in a second, that really help you reset your mental patterns. But the fitness metaphor matters because only by doing fitness regularly are you fit. You don't get to go on a retreat and become a yoga master. You have to keep practicing on a regular basis. When it comes to your mental fitness, working on things like focus, confidence, optimism, resilience, your energy levels, these all take regular practices that are going to help build them over time. And as a high performing executive or employee who's just trying to do their best and be present, we all have an equal need. Our brains have an equal need for these exercises. And so that's really where this mental fitness piece comes in and why I really hammer on the fitness part, because it's about repetitive behaviors you have to do over time.
You know where this really was the aha moment for me. And so we've done a lot with our Vistage group on EQ, emotional intelligence.
Mm.
And when you talk about emotional intelligence, what are you talking about? We're talking about optimism, ability to overcome challenges and things. And so it's one thing to talk about and measure EQ, but what are you going to do about it? I mean, so let's say your EQ is a bit low because your ability and your resilience is not quite what you need it to be. Well, what are you going to do about that? Well, I thought in our discussion, the light went off and said, mental fitness. That's exactly where we can look to help build EQ, which is something that I think in the general business lexicon is something that is probably a lot more better, at least understood initially, than mental fitness is. And so, but I think how it goes together, that's where the secret sauce is.
For sure. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Lissy. So I just watched this halftime talk that Rick Pitino, the coach, gave to his players, and it was insane. It's going all viral over social media, talking about strength, and because they were down at halftime and they just were wilting. Their outward, the way they were carrying themselves, they were giving up. And he gave this very inspirational speech, which I can't repeat here, a lot of F-bombs in there. But my point and my question for you is that was appropriate for that group. He's obviously a leader, and we all know what happened with his team, the incredible win they just had. But for you, when you're dealing with these owners of businesses and so forth, what is the scenario there where they need to lead appropriately? Is it being positive? Like, what's the communication they should be having with employees? We know coach and a player, and Dave, you brought up the sports analogy, but what about owners of a business? What are the strategies there?
Yeah. So there's like the micro strategies and the macro strategies, or as we say, your individual mental fitness strategies and your org strategies. And I'll talk about kind of those two pieces. The first is like what the individual owner does to make sure that they show up in a way that allows them to lead every day. And I talk about this through the lens of winning the moment, which is that every single day, our brain operates on patterns of feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. Now, most people default to the patterns that they have walking into the day. Notice a Monday. Most people, how's it going? Oh, it's Monday, man. The weekend's
Yep,
over,
yep,
right?
yeah.
Only when business owners decide to win the moment, which is about making a decision about the single next best thing that you need to do, and then feeling good, by the way, about the decision, not getting it done, do I see a big difference in the way that leaders not only show up, but how people follow them.
Hmm.
Because by establishing a personal semblance of control and positivity around that control, leaders keep moving forward even when things are hard, even when mistakes are made, and even when people feel like there's no sight line of sight in an issue. And so at the very, very smallest level, owners of a business have to learn how to win the moment. And the hardest part for them usually isn't that decision, it's the feeling good about it. Most owners run themselves into the cement. I'm not doing enough. I wish I was doing more. The decision in itself is not, my to-do list. And then they treat their employees like that too. And so learning how to win the moment as an owner is really not just about you, it's about role modeling the behaviors you expect to see at your company. Now, the second piece to that is the organizational structure and the operational model you have set up. So this is literally what I went to MIT to study, which is how do you create an organization that allows everybody to win the moment? And there's 4 elements to an organizationally fit company. The first is around setting clear expectations, not just around what you're doing, but around how you do it. So that's your values in addition to your goals. The second is around your methods or tools for communication and accountability around those expectations. The third is around basic foundations for growth, making sure your employees have basic pay, feel safe, have somewhere to go for recognition and regular one-on-ones. And then last but not least is creating an environment for progress, which is really more around what we talk about, with Gen Z and millennials around having learning paths and best friends at work and all of these things. Now, fit companies need all 4 of those things, and owners oftentimes don't think about their own footprint. So they're like, oh, well, my org, I'm not even my mental health. I just have to keep grinding, keep going. Everything's fine. And then they start maybe plugging away at some of these org fitness pieces, or they're not paying attention to org fitness. And they're like, all that matters is that I'm focused and I'm driving the train. You really do need these 2 pieces. Like my dad said earlier, to make sure that the bus is running.
This is so much more real than the business model of years ago, which was very hierarchical. And I could make a little, I'll call it a dad joke because that's what Lissy would do. But we used to say in the hierarchical organization that the beatings will continue till morale improves. And so, we'd say that tongue in cheek, but it wasn't very real back then. I mean, we didn't really understand the mental model of how people operate and how, if you could capture people's imagination and understand the mental model, then guess what? This organization becomes a winner. And that's how you do those great locker room speeches that we've come to see in movies and in real time. So these days, it's so much more healthier, I got to say, for the individual.
It is healthier. It's what we need because the world is more dynamic and there's just a lot more demands on our time and pressure on our outcomes. And by the way, one small thing I wanted to say about that speech is that I always like to say when it comes to ongoing behavior change, there's 4 elements that you need. The first is inspiration, which is that speech. It's the push. But the second is what I say is perspiration, which is doing the work. Athletes show up to practice every single day of the week, and then they have game time. And if you, as an athlete, a professional athlete, a corporate athlete, are sitting there in your office, you can have the best pump up speech from your boss. But if you're not doing the reps to actually feel good and know what to do day to day, not just, again, the what, which is your goals, but the how, which is how you need to show up to achieve those goals, nothing else really matters. And then, by the way, we say there's support, it's inspiration, perspiration, celebration, which is about feeling good, and then support.
I love it.
So there's a bunch of ingredients that go into making sure that game was won. Inspiration being that kind of catalyst.
Dave, what was going on in your household growing up with Lissy here? My Lord, you've unleashed this dynamo on the world. I'm taking notes over here.
Well, that's why I say the eggs are smarter than the chickens. That's in our family. So
I
love it.
I say that all the time. I think the other thing that I really like about, Lissy, what you talk about is the personal responsibility. So in a hierarchical kind of setting, there isn't that kind of, they say jump, you say how high. We use all these funny little sayings, but where's the personal responsibility? And I love what you're talking about here is because responsibility without a pathway to understand what that really means, it's empty. It's when it says do better and you don't tell anybody what's the formula and you don't take the individual into account, these are all total empty phrases with no potential end result. But when you put all of the methodology that you're talking about here, and you got to do the work. I love that. You got to do the work. So here's the framework. Here's how we can win, but here's your piece of it. And that's accountability. Another buzzword we spend a lot of time talking about, but how do you put some meat on that definition? And so this is all about which you talk about. That's why I love it.
Yeah, and I gotta say the inspiration, the perspiration, I love it. I'm using that, Lissy. I'm gonna use it.
Rock
Uh,
and roll, man. Let's go.
yeah, I want to be respectful of time here, and I
Yeah.
want to ask. I know both of you. How how do you do intros? I mean, Dave, I know you'll get on a Zoom with somebody that's maybe interested in your peer groups. Lissy, how do both of you handle that?
Well, we both have totally different businesses. We just meet
Right.
in the middle to help. And I learned from Lissy. We have one-to-ones every week, Lissy and I learned from her, and she just gets a little perspective what the old guy thinks about, right?
That's
I
not
listen to
true. He taught me
a
most
few
things I
dad
know.
jokes, a few dad jokes, but that's so we have separate. I'm in the Vistage business, and
Right, right.
Tell everybody about a little about how somebody would contact you about stuff
Yeah.
that you're working on.
Yeah, so I have a couple different ways that people reach out. The first is I have a YouTube channel, and I have a show or a series there called Your Brain Explained. And so a lot of people will check that out and see like, hey, can you do this topic for my company or come by and, do some sort of like speaking or workshop for us. The second is that I actually have a good amount of clients in the healthcare space who are looking for organizational fitness help because they're seeing that there's a lot of turnover and retention and engagement issues, specifically with clinical and non-clinical staff in hospital and also just general healthcare settings. So, like basic practices. So, I work with them in that way. And then, last but not least, is coaching. So I have both an app. So if, coaching doesn't feel like the right thing from a time or resource perspective, people will download our app, which is available on the App Store. It's iOS only right now. But then I also do these month-long coaching sprints to get people momentum. So when we talk about that inspiration, a lot of folks come to me burned out, tired, exhausted, and they don't have money for a 6-month coaching sprint.
Right.
They need to
Yeah.
feel better now. And so I get people feeling better in a week, and within 4 weeks, they have full habits built and they're ready to rock. So
I'm a subscriber.
he is a
I
subscriber.
love it.
Our
I'm going to
best.
check it out. I love it. Well, listen, this has been phenomenal. Thank you both for being here. I know we're going to continue the discussion. So, Lissy, thank you. Dave, thank you very much. And for everyone listening, appreciate you coming on board.
All
So
terrific. Thank
much.
you so much. Yep.
Uh,
Thanks.
all right. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye
Bye-bye.
now.